If you always feel tired, have no energy, and zero motivation, you need to take these 5 tests. In 90% of cases, they reveal the cause of this fatigue. Hello family, welcome to another video here on our channel. Most of the time, this lack of energy is due to simple deficiencies, which can be easily detected with these 5 tests. But pay attention, maybe you took the tests and they were interpreted incorrectly. That's why it might have come back normal and you still have the symptoms. So, write down these tests, see if they're part of your checkup, and learn how to evaluate them correctly. And of course, go ahead and like this video, don't forget mine. Give it a thumbs up, share it in your groups too, and tell me, are you feeling like this? Tired, without energy? Did you find out the cause? Let me know in the comments below. My friends, don't forget to visit my website. On my website, you'll find all the supplements I use and recommend. And you guys are always asking about the dosages, the best brands. You always want to know which magnesium is best, what the right dosage is, which omega-3 is best. Everything's on my website, including my courses and other social media links at www.dedidado.com.br. As I said, maybe you've even done these tests and they're within the reference range, theoretically normal. But pay attention, be very careful with the reference range. It can fool you and lead to a false diagnosis. Want the first example? The most common cause of fatigue and weakness is low ferritin. What is ferritin? It's our iron storage. Iron, my friends, is essential in the formation of red blood cells, and it's the red blood cells that carry oxygen to all the tissues in our body. If iron is low, the red blood cells are compromised. If the red blood cells are compromised, there's less oxygen for the brain, for the heart, and for the muscles. What is the main consequence of this? Weakness, fatigue. Then you go and do your ferritin test, it comes back at 30, and then you check it out. In the test, the reference says above 20 is normal. That's not true, my friends. The ideal ferritin level is above 60. Look at that. It's 3 times higher than the minimum that's shown in the reference range. But why is that? Moacir? It's because that reference range isn't the ideal amount you need to be healthy. It's just an average of those who take the test, and for them, low ferritin is typical. That's very common, especially among young women, so your ferritin A needs to be above 60, preferably above 80. So, do you see? You might be within the reference range, but you still need to supplement iron if your ferritin is low. My friends, you need to eat more red meat. Liver also has a lot of iron, and that will help normalize your iron levels. If it's very low, definitely, you need to get intravenous iron supplementation. Here's another example that happens a lot. Okay, my friends, thyroid hormones. What are the tests to measure thyroid hormones? Thyroid stimulating hormone and T4. A lot of people measure thyroid stimulating hormone and T4 and they come back normal. This person keeps feeling tired and lacks energy because they're hypothyroid, which 2 missing tests would have revealed. Because the hormone that really has the effect of increasing our metabolism, right? Of giving us energy, giving us motivation. It's T3, not T4. T4 must be converted into T3, which is the form that acts on the cell. So you can't just measure thyroid stimulating hormone and T4, you have to measure T3, and you have to measure reverse T3. So, if you're having these symptoms of weakness, of fatigue, don't just do thyroid stimulating hormone, and T4 also do T3 and reverse T3. Only then will you get an accurate hypothyroidism diagnosis. Another example, Vitamin D, my friends. I'm going to take a risk here and say that 90% of the Brazilian population has low vitamin D. Because we don't get much sun anymore, right? Unfortunately, nobody has the time or the conditions to get 40 minutes of sun every day. There are people who, depending on where they live, don't even have sun available, right? So our vitamin D is low, but you get tested and it's over 20. Your vitamin D is normal, 20 nanograms per deciliter. It's not. Your vitamin D should be between 60 and 80 nanograms. Why is the reference range so low? Moacir, as I said, that's an average of the population. And since nobody gets sun, the average goes way down. So it needs to be above 60 and up to 80 nanograms. Vitamin D is vital not only for immunity, but also for regulating DNA and preventing disease. It's a hormone and it's essential for energy production. So if your energy is low, it could be a vitamin D deficiency. Look, I'll show you 3 examples here where the reference range can be misleading. Do you want one more? Vitamin B12. Vitamin B12 is not only responsible for energy production, but also for memory, reasoning, and especially for brain energy. Vitamin B12 levels are low, a problem that's increasingly common in the population. Moacir, what is the correct B12 level? It needs to be above 800, my friends. Pay attention. It happened to my mom, okay? She went to her doctor. He ordered a vitamin B12 test. Her vitamin B12 was at 250, very low, but still within the range. Remember I explained how the range works? It was within the range. The doctor said, it's not great. I looked at the test and said, Mom, it's not great, it's very low. And she was having trouble thinking. Her memory was failing. Why? Because of low B12. And ideally, my friends, it's not even about measuring B12, okay? This B12 vitamin test. B12 can give a false reading of how your B12 is doing for several reasons. The ideal test to measure B12 is to measure methylmalonic acid. Few doctors order this test, but it's the most appropriate one to assess your B12 levels. So, if you're experiencing weakness or fatigue, keep an eye on your B12, it might be low. And finally, cortisol, Moacir. But isn't cortisol a stress hormone? Yes, high cortisol isn't good, stress isn't good, but low cortisol is also a problem. It's cortisol that gives us that energy to wake up in the morning. It's the cortisol peak in the morning that wakes us up. That's why we wake up with energy and motivation. If you wake up tired, low on energy, and unmotivated, it might be low cortisol. Often the test is evaluated incorrectly. Many doctors, most of them, order a blood cortisol test where you have your blood drawn in the morning at the lab to measure cortisol, but that's not the correct way. Since cortisol varies throughout the day, you need to do 3 to 4 cortisol measurements during the day. Your morning cortisol might be normal, so your doctor may assume everything is fine. In the afternoon, energy drops and you feel fatigued. Many people experience this tiredness and lack of motivation due to low cortisol levels. So, ideally, you should measure it first thing in the morning, after lunch, at the beginning of the evening, and if you wake up during the night, measure it again. You can't do this by drawing blood, right, my friends? That's why you need to measure it through saliva, right? There's a swab and a little kit you use. This cortisol curve, and cortisol can reveal the famous burnout, right? So many people out there suffering from burnout, which in my time used to be called exhaustion, right? We called it exhaustion. It's chronic stress, right? My friends, a lot of people have this problem. So what now? This is evaluated, among other symptoms, by cortisol levels, but you need to do the salivary cortisol test. You see, my friends, 5 tests that you might do, and everything comes back normal, in quotes, within the reference range. But if you look at it with a magnifying glass, if you evaluate it in more detail, you'll see that you need to replenish iron, control your thyroid hormones, replenish vitamin D, and replenish vitamin B12. Check for burnout and pay close attention when evaluating tests. My friends, visit my website www.teddy.moacir.com.br. On my website, you'll find all the supplements, my friends, that I use and recommend. They're all there on my website. The vitamin B12 that I use, I take B12. Okay, my friends, I take B12 to keep it above 900. The vitamin D with K2 that I use, it's all there on my website, my courses, my other social media. Check it out. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, my friends, don't stop. It doesn't cost anything. It's free. Just click subscribe. Don't forget to hit the bell and don't forget to select all. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was useful for you. Don't forget to share it, and I'll see you in our next conversation, my friends. See you then.